Hello, is that Steve? Stephen.
Yes, that's me. Yes, that's right. I don't have a camera, so
Okay, so you get to see my pretty face.
yeah, and so does everybody else.
That's right. um, yeah, so what? I'm just trying to make sure I add everyone in. I am recording everything. Actually, I might put on pause and just record them all start. Okay,
Yeah,
so
okay.
welcome, Stephen Stalberg. Did I say your name right? The last name, Stalberg, or is it pronounced a different way? Or
Yeah, no, in English that's how it's pronounced. In Swedish,
yeah,
it's irrelevant basically because it's just about 8 million people
yeah,
out of 7 billion
yeah.
who say it slightly differently, so it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Cool, man. I've got my painting up and we're going to talk. I'm just going to be noodling and painting over the top of my painting. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I've kind of met Stephen through Facebook and Patreon and stuff like that, and we've been supporting each other because, I mean, I'll be honest, I've looked at your paintings and I've been following you on DeviantArt for years, man. Like, I've been looking at your stuff and it's pretty damn good. Like, how long have
Thanks.
you been a concept artist for? So,
Oh, not very long in this particular title, but I have been painting for a very long time. But
yeah.
concept art, and on top of everything else, also concept art has evolved recently
It is.
into a slightly different direction than what like 10 years ago concept art wasn't what it is today. So
Mm.
for me, there's a lot of new things happening. But when it comes to making marks on a flat sheet of paper or a Wacom, I've
Yeah.
been doing that for a while.
Yeah. Awesome. So this is a photo of you here. I'm actually going to pull up. What's your best website? I mean, you've got a Patreon, but what's your best website to showcase your work? So if we can just go there now and just quickly show people what would be
Art,
where is all your best stuff? 'Cause
ArtStation is one. DeviantArt is
yeah,
also holds.
I like ArtStation. Let's pull it up. So let's have a look here.
Yeah, yeah.
You can see my screen, all right, Stephen?
Yeah,
Cool.
I see your screen
Yeah.
here. I also have my Photoshop open, so
Yeah.
I'm dividing my screen
Gotcha.
space.
Yeah. Fair enough. Um,
Yeah, I'm trying to research a brush. I'm trying to make a cooler brush that is,
yeah.
I don't know, more useful. More generally useful, like a real brush something that you can make a sharp stroke with,
Yeah.
and then just by changing the pressure, you can make it soft and blend.
Yeah.
That's the holy grail, I guess. What many people try. It's possible to do it in one program.
Mhm. Just
What's that
trying to.
called again? It's not Painter. It's not Photoshop. It's what's the third one called?
There's Paint, there's Photoshop, there's
Corel Paint.
Corel Paint, yeah, Corel Paint, yeah.
Yeah, that one. I think it's supposed to be possible there,
Mhm.
but I want to use Photoshop, so I'm trying to swing it in Photoshop somehow. I
Mhm.
don't know. It might not be possible at all.
Yeah.
If I find out, I'll let you know.
It's always good, isn't it?
I gotten sort of halfway, but this brush is too heavy. It just, even on the lowest setting, it just puts too much paint on the canvas, so
Yeah.
I can't really get that soft transition that I want.
Yep. Are you able to screen share? There's a video of me there. So are you able to screen share or not? Or show us
Yeah,
are you allowed to show us what you're doing? Or?
well, I mean, it's just a blank. Right now, this is just an empty
Okay.
white square where I'm trying to put some black marks on it, and then when I fail, I hit
Yep.
Control Z and try again. So right now it's empty, but
That's alright.
if there's something specific you want to see, just let me know later.
Yep. No worries. Awesome. So you've been doing it for a while since so how many years in total do you like just being an artist in general, not just a concept artist? So how much?
Yeah, I'm getting on in years a little bit, so I'm 56. So
Yep.
I've been doing it for decades. Actually drawing since I was a kid, but art school in from '86. Well, no, I went to another art school before that, but like 3 years of art school roughly
Yep.
over the space of a few more years, and then I started professionally in the '80s making images. Kind of eased into it, small scale at first,
Yep.
and then just more and more of my time. I've been a freelancer for many years also in there and worked for a few different companies.
Yep.
I went into 3D for a bunch of years,
Oh, wow.
and now I can still I could still do 3D today, but I mean I have all the equipment and stuff, but it just happens that I enjoy 2D more right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually, funnily enough, I actually studied 3D when I went through university
Yeah.
I did my undergraduate degree, but I actually, at the time, my lecturer didn't know anything about concept art. Like, they didn't even know. This was in the year 2000, and you'd think that they'd know, but he had no idea
Yeah.
about this whole field of concept art, and he just taught me,
Oh.
he taught us 3D, because he's like, oh, this is the rage, and everyone's doing 3D art, and
Yeah.
they need 3D modelers in the pipeline to make these animations and films, and I'm like, yeah, and that was true, but he just didn't even know about concept art, which is just Australia for you at the time, and we're a bit behind. We kind of are behind America in a sense with a lot of things, and
Yeah.
maybe the rest of the world because we're out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, every 3D model that anybody ever makes should have a concept first. I mean, sometimes it doesn't, but it should.
Yeah.
It's the best way to work. You start from a concept.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like concept art's kind of is the forgotten thing, or it's a thing that people don't want to pay for. That I mean, I've got clients that pay for concept artwork. It's kind of like the
Yeah.
last. It is paid less than the 3D artist. I've noticed. You know what I mean? Like 3D art.
Yeah.
It seems to be valuable because obviously they use that in the actual animation game or whatever. And I'm not trying to be negative here, but it is the truth. I mean, unfortunately, it's the concept art is the last thing people kind of think about. Well, it should be the first. It is the first in a game or a movie, but it's kind of like the last thing on their budgets. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah.
so,
Yeah, we have I mean, in the company that I work for, we have the workflow is set, and we don't let the clients tell us what to do. I mean, sometimes the client comes with a concept, but most of the time we'll do the concept ourselves. We have concept artists and we have 3D artists, and they're actually free to change jobs if they can do it. They're free to do it. If they can show that they can handle it, they're free to change.
yeah.
And also as the situation demands, because in the beginning of the project, there's a lot of concept art, and then later down the pipeline, we may not need that many concepts being made. So in that case, some of them can start modeling,
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I'm not against 3D modeling. I think it's fun. I mean, I'm actually wanting to do a bit of ZBrush to turn my dragons to life to make toys. You know what I mean? Because it's just like a lot of people at the cons are like, oh, these would be cool. Your dragons would be really good toys, or this would be a really good, a figurine or something for like a tabletop game. People have need for that, which is really.
Yeah. Do you use a 3D printer? Do you have one?
I've got access to one. There's a guy. I'm part of the collective here in South Australia of. It's like a studio space, but I exhibit my work there now permanently, and they do have a 3D printer because they're actually asking me to do painting actually up 3D models and that. But with obviously I've got to figure out pricing and that with them. But definitely I've got access to a 3D printer. So ZBrush is something that I really want to learn. Well, I've done a lot of ZBrush courses and I know how to use it. It's just I'm not at the level. I'm not confident with it. You know what I mean? So
yeah. It's a highly complex. I mean, it's way more complex than Photoshop or anything like that. Yeah.
Of course it is.
It's got so many parts. I don't even know how to use all the parts. I just focus on sculpting when I use ZBrush.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's cool. So, but yeah, it's good that you can, you're able to jump between concepting and 3D, which is awesome because, I mean, like doing whatever for the team, it's good that when you're working on in an environment like that, it is really important. I mean, I was doing some stuff for Disney, some like 2D matte paintings, and the people were like, "Oh, can you do these as 3D models as well?" And I was like, "No, like I honestly couldn't do it." So I just said, "No, I'm sorry, I can't." But like, I probably would have got a lot more work if I said I could model them all in Modo or whatever it is. You know, it is such a
yeah.
necessary thing. You know, so because they could only go so far with the 2D work, the 2D matte paintings, and that's fine. You know,
Yeah.
you can't win them all.
Yeah, for matte paintings, definitely a lot of people use Blockhouse nowadays, where you do it in like SketchUp or
Yeah.
Maya or Max or SketchUp is popular because it's free. You
Yeah.
can or cheap
I
and
actually know how to use Google SketchUp. I do have a 3D work
yeah,
in my piece. I've done that with a space station,
yes,
but yeah, it's good fun. It's a good program. So
yeah, it can help a lot with perspective, and I mean it'll save a lot of time with perspective
yeah,
and lighting and stuff like that.
oh definitely. So I've added a whole ton of people, and I think Joshua Calloway might be coming. He was in the last Google Hangout. He's like
Ah,
he's stalking me. So he does
cool.
a lot of artwork for what's it called, Fantasy Flight Games. So he
Ah.
does like the board game art and that, which is awesome. And he's a pretty good artist. Like he's got a Patreon as well. So it must be the Patreon game here today. So
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think everybody should have a Patreon. I mean, not
mm,
necessarily, 1,000 supporters, but just everybody should have a
something.
couple
Yeah.
of supporters, because then what happens is you get into a situation where you feel like, I don't want to draw today, but then you think about your one or two supporters or whatever, and you think like, oh crap, I said I would, so now I got to do it. So
Yeah.
it becomes a helpful
It is
aid.
motivational because it's pushed me to make a
Yeah,
comic book, and I've actually the full, we should actually
yeah.
be celebrating because the first issue of Luminous Ages is finished by January the 15th. Woohoo!
Ah, cool.
So
Yeah,
which is amazing. And so like now, the second issue we're planning to have done by August next year, or probably by September would be more realistic, or before we go to New Zealand again, because I
yeah,
met some people at Weta that were really interested in the comic. And
yeah,
so like it's great to have people that support the story and the art that I'm making, but like it does motivate me. Like sometimes like, oh, what do I do today? If I've run out, like let's say I've run out of client work or my client projects are finished, I could easily take 2 weeks off and do nothing. But it
yeah,
kind of says, it does kind of motivate you to make more art. And like right now, I could take a holiday and say, right, next week, because my parents have gone away, everyone's gone away for Christmas. The house
yeah,
is to myself. And I could say I'm going to have next week off and just do nothing, and that's great. But for me, it's like I'm now motivated. I've got to finish off this Cthulhu painting, which you can see on my screen. I'm doing some
yeah,
comic book pages for the fans. I'm doing some concept art. And I'm going to spend a week on doing stuff for Patreon for the people that really believe in what I'm doing. And it's not like I don't
yeah,
see it as being work. It's actually I have to do this. Do you know what I mean? It's not like I'm not being forced because of my patrons. But the thing is, if I didn't do this, I'd be slacking off. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah, yeah. It's sort of like having a trainer,
yeah,
there's a guy on a bike ahead of you saying, "Come on, run faster, run faster."
yeah,
And the main beneficiary is yourself, because a year later, I'll have 24 pin-up pictures that I would not have had, if I hadn't had this
exactly.
thing.
Exactly, and me, I will have by this year, end of this year, I've got the full issue of the comics out. So all the cons I go to, there'll be a comic book that's out. There'll be a second
Yeah,
issue on the way. So people will be like January, February, March. I'm going to be doing a lot more pages for patrons. So comic book pages and a whole lot of fantasy art. And so like what's going to happen is at least if people get hooked on the first issue, then I can definitely say, hey, guess what? The next one's only like 4 months away. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
the printed comic comes out in February. But I'll be able to say to people, hey, look, it's only August, the second issue will be out, on Patreon. And that's the good thing about it. It does motivate you to kind of go, have more content out. And I love working for
yeah,
studios. I've worked for some big guys, not as many as you, because you've been in the industry for a while, but I've worked for some people like Warner Brothers and Disney and, and a few film studios in Australia. And it's great working for these companies. And it's great exposure. It is, some of them pay well, some don't. um,
yeah,
but the thing is like once a job's done, it's done. You don't have any more work. You know what I mean? Like you
yeah,
may get
yeah.
more work, you may get hired again, but until it might be another 6 months before you get another project. you
Yeah.
know, or it might be a year, it might even be 2 years. You don't know. And so, like, I do have clients, and I do have regular clients that I do work with still, but you know, it's good to have your own things and to have your own. I've got a lot of my own ideas and stories and paintings that, you know, I want to get out, you know, get off my chest kind of thing, you know. So
Yeah.
um,
That's true, and also another benefit is just constant training. And instead of just saying doing nothing for a month,
yeah,
you're like almost every day I'm like drawing something,
yeah,
whether I want to
brilliant.
or not. You know,
That's brilliant.
I usually want to, but I think this sort of squeezes a little bit more out of me, so to speak. Yeah.
Sure does. So I mean,
Even if I don't get to draw on, because in the office, what I do a lot is giving feedback, which is, you know, it trains my eyeballs a little bit. It trains my brain to see stuff. I'm
yeah,
looking at art all day long and seeing what's wrong with it, but I don't get to paint that much. Some days I don't get to paint that much in the
yeah.
office.
And thank you,
So that's good.
by the way, for looking at my work and being a second pair of eyes too. That always helps, you know. Like we kind of like for those of you that don't know, Steve's also offered you critique my work a bit sometimes here and there, haven't you? Like, was that what
Yeah,
you would
yeah.
call it, critiquing? Yeah. So.
Yeah, in the office, some people say feedback, some people say feedbacks.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think it should
Should be
be
called
a,
critique. Yeah.
a plural. It's not a plural, but yeah, it's funny when you hear the word feedbacks.
Yeah.
Give feedbacks.
Yeah, I like that. I like that word better. Let's. I reckon we're going to call it that. Let's give feedback. Let's call it feedback.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a great
I
way
mean,
of teaching people, like, you know, because it doesn't feel like it's your, you know, a critique. People don't find it that, you know, that whole word critique is such a, I suppose not negative. Well, it has negative connotations, but it kind of has that, you know, that judgmental kind of aspect. Whereas a feedback's like, hey, you're getting feedback. You know, that's all you know.
yeah, feedback associates to feed, which is good. I like food,
Exactly. Yeah.
and to something to giving back
Yeah. Yeah.
something, you know, which is also good, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, that's a great analogy. That's a great explanation. Feed and back. Yeah. Giving back
Yeah.
something.
Some people call it C&C, which is, you know, critique and comment, or comment and critique. I don't know which one comes
Yeah.
first. C&C sounds also more nicer to say, but it's not as clear when you. I mean, you can hear it. It's not. You can misunderstand the word and think that you're saying something else.
Could be like CNC Music Factory.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't know if you know that band, that group.
No, I didn't know. I know it's a band.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Is it an Australian band?
No, they're American. They're like, you know,
Oh,
they did that song,
okay.
things that make you go, you know. It's like it's not a band. They're a I don't know, pop music. So yeah,
Okay.
American pop, R&B. I don't know, that kind of style. Yeah. So funny stuff. So,
Yeah.
I'm not sure we've even got. I think we've invited 11 people. So they've all got the invite. It's in the right window, I'm pretty sure. So, you know, look, if people don't come to school, we're recording, we're talking. People get to see it, so it's all fun.
Yeah.
All fun and games until someone gets hurt.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is what I'm working on, Cthulhu at the moment. This is my Cthulhu. I'll show you at the end of the video. It's the anatomy pose of me. It's actually it's not really my body, but it is based on a pose I made. I actually had to pose for the painting because I was like, I can't get his body right. I could get the squid face right, but I'm like, damn, I can't get it. You know?
Yeah, human bodies are more difficult, yeah,
They are
than maybe
animals.
anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Animals, you kind of got a bit of leeway, you know, where you can get things wrong and people aren't going to care but it's just because, and the reason why with humans is because we see each other all the time. We know what people look like. We study, I mean, human bodies are throughout all of our media. You know, they're in the TV, they're in the news, they're in the newspaper. So, you know, our minds have gotten used to. We know what is wrong and right in a human body. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. We also evolved to. I mean, even if a guy never saw Well, I don't know. That would be an interesting experiment, actually. A
Mm.
guy grows up on a desert island, and then he meets people for the first time. He probably wouldn't know what the heck he was looking at.
Yeah.
I mean, he'd know his own body from looking at it, but he'd be probably very confused about some other people's bodies.
Yeah,
It's
maybe.
interesting.
Maybe. Who
Yeah,
knows?
but we evolved to have a keen eye for the like, is that guy an enemy or is that woman a suitable mate? Stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Body language and facial expressions and all that minutia.
Mm. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um, so you've done 3D, you've done concept design, you're doing pin-up illustration. Wow, like, do you have time? Like, the thing is like balance. Like, do you, like, obviously you work very hard. I do as well. We all kind of work. A lot of artists I know that are doing it full time. It's kind of like you kind of have to work pretty hard. Maybe you're going to take a break over the Christmas, or I shouldn't say Christmas, but the holiday period. I don't want to get politically incorrect here. So over the holiday break, are you going to do much, or do you like relax at all,
Well, first off, I call it Christmas because that's what I grew up with. We call it Jul in Sweden,
Yeah.
which is probably a good way to escape the whole controversial
Yeah.
naming convention thing. But anyway, Christmas. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna take any breaks. Or I'm going to Singapore. There's a show there. There's like a convention,
Oh wow.
cosplay convention. So for 2 days, I think I'm gonna be just standing with the table with my stuff on it and sell some stuff. Sell some prints that I've made.
Awesome. Good
And
luck
then
with that. Good luck with
back.
that.
Yeah, thanks. And then back here, and I'll just be working along like I always do. I might take a few hours break here and there, but if I take a day or two and do nothing, like just reading or whatever, I'm going to feel bad. I'm going to start to feel itchy and guilty and bad and like what,
Yeah.
time is passing, tick tock,
Yeah.
I think I'm a workaholic. I don't know. I
Yeah,
guess so.
I think it is a bit like that. Like, I mean, I do work hard, and I am taking a break for Christmas because it's going to be busy units here. But what I do is I work really hard, like right until next Saturday or Sunday, or actually right until the following Monday. I'm actually going to be doing all the Patreon stuff, and the whole idea is I'm going to actually just work, like 12-hour days and get everything that needs to get done for December done so I can have a week off. And I know it sounds like you're probably thinking, my God, a whole week, but
no, you probably have family or something. But
yeah.
we don't have.
Well,
We're living in Malaysia, so
Yeah,
our family isn't here,
yeah,
So
it's a different story.
yeah.
I mean, my background is from Cyprus, Greek Cypriot, so family's a big thing, and we call Christmas Christou.
Yeah.
It's called Christou, which is a really long word, but Christmas for us is a different meaning. Like, it's similar to the rest of the Western world, but it's more about family. It's all about family, and it's all about just remembering. If you are religious, remembering your religion or your faith, whatever it is. I have family members that are Buddhist now, and some of them are Christian. A lot of them are Christian, but
Cool.
we're not like against any religion or anything like that. So it's more like, for me also, I've been working like 7 days a week. Sometimes when you probably see me post on Facebook, like I'd go away to 3 conventions in a month, and I love it. It's great, but you have to work 7 days a week to do that, because you got a whole weekend. You're in a state, then you got to prepare for the con, and you got to get a painting ready. And I'm not whining at all about it, but there have been like 3 or 4 months straight where I'm worked 7 days a week, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it's just, it does get a bit physically tiring. It's not like the sitting down and painting. It is actually quite exhausting physically and emotionally, because like you have to kind of, when you're at a con, I mean, I am a pretty happy, chirpy guy, and I'm quite happy with life and stuff. But a lot of artists aren't, you know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that, because some artists are, real introverted and that. But
yeah, the traveling is quite tiring, isn't it?
It
I mean,
is.
that's not the fun part. That's the worst part of it. The actual traveling.
The actual flights get really, really draining. Like, sometimes you have to get, like, for me as an artist, I have to save money on flights, so I have to catch like like I reckon that 3 times this year it was 4 a.m. flights, 4 o'clock in the
Mm.
morning, man, and like I'd arrive
Mm.
in that state and I'd set up my table and start selling that afternoon, and like so like you have Red Bull, a V, whatever you can find, and it's like
Yeah.
you're kind of forced to it's not you have to always be happy even if you feel tired and exhausted and you kind of or you
Yeah.
might be a bit down that day because you lost half your luggage or something stupid has happened in the airport, like you've been delayed in the flight, you might be grumpy because of that or something. You have to always
Yeah.
put on the front to customers, and it's not being fake. I'm always am happy anyway, so it's like I have to put on that happy face even if there is a storm brewing or something's happening,
Yeah, no, I know totally. Yeah, I mean, you're not being fake. You're just trying to be who you would normally be if you weren't feeling
flying.
crappy. You know,
If you hadn't caught a
you know,
flight,
it's not really being fake.
it's
It's trying
not.
to
Yeah.
get back to where you should be at. You know.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I remember like one of the biggest cons I had. Sydney is usually really big for me, and I was staying with a friend who was a cosplayer, but I must have caught something off of him or somewhere,
Oh.
and I had a cold on the Saturday, and it was like a fever, and it was bad, and like I had like about 3 Nurophens, I had all this medication, and I was just like put on a happy face. If someone says something negative, don't react. Just try and keep level-headed. And it was the
Yeah.
hardest day of my life. I just was like, oh my god, I so want to just go home, go back to the hotel room and sleep, but I have to be here because customers are expecting stuff, and it's my biggest show of the year. It was. Sydney has some of the most amazing people. I mean, there's amazing people everywhere, but there's more people. There's a bigger population, so obviously there's more people coming to see my art and stuff. And sometimes with art, it's like it is sink or swim. So
Yeah.
as you
Yeah.
know, so
That's tough. You do catch a lot of stuff
yeah,
when you're out among people
yeah,
a lot, like you are.
yeah,
I'm not that much out
yeah,
on conventions and things. So this is actually the first time for me to go sell stuff at a cosplay convention.
yeah. Well, I wish you the best. Like I said, I honestly do mean that.
Yeah,
So.
it'll be fun.
Yeah.
I'll just take what I can get.
Yeah, yeah. Have you got like all your prints ready to go? Like you've printed up all your prints and that, or?
Yeah, I got a bunch of prints. I'm gonna ask the other artists. I think I have an idea what the price should be in Singapore dollars, and yeah, I'll just write little cards. $10 for this one, whatever for this one.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I'll just sit there and smile, I guess.
Yeah.
Look at the funny cosplayers. Take pictures.
Yeah, that's a good. Look, it is the thing that kind of does motivate me with cons is the people. Like there are some, like you meet. Obviously, like there are some. I've had people that have been negative. You obviously get your negative people that are like, will say something weird like, oh, like I get people that are like, oh, is that digital art? I'm like, yeah, and it's like, oh, that's not like real painting, And it's like, and I'm like, well, actually, I have actually a lot of my paintings are like this one here, the pirate ship. I'll just show you. You've probably seen the pirate ship. That was actually with acrylic paint. The original was done with acrylic. My mouse is weird, yeah. And I have the original hanging. Actually, I'll just load it up from here. A bit easier, rather than waiting for internet. Yeah, so that was with acrylics, and I nearly got not into an argument, but this guy was like saying to me, "Your digital print doesn't look like the painting," and he was getting really upset about it. This was in Adelaide. This was in Adelaide, in my hometown, and like one of the guys that works for me, Matthew, was like almost about to tell me to go away, but I just said, "Leave it, I'll handle it." I said, "Look, sir, when you scan in an original painting and you bring it into Photoshop, that's actually being painted in acrylics, that one there." So, and I said, like, the only thing that I've done is there might have been a levels adjustment to make the original painting look darker, because the original is actually quite lighter and you can see more greys in it. Whereas when I scanned it in and I adjusted it in Photoshop, all I did was do a levels adjustment. He goes, "Oh, well, then it's not the same work." I'm right. And I'm like, I go, no, it is the same work. I've just pressed a button to fix up the levels, and even if I didn't do that, I said to him, my printer would have done that. My actual
Yeah.
canvas printer would have done that because he would have made sure that it's got the right levels, And this
Yeah.
guy was rather old, he would have been in his 70s or late 60s, but he just was like, oh, it's not the same, and I can paint like this, and he was having a go at me, and I just was like, I just kept a smile. Look, no worries, sir, have a good day. I kept on saying, have a good day, see you later. He obviously wasn't going to buy something, but when people are nasty, you can't kind of be nasty back, or you can only tell them the story, and then hopefully they get the vibe. But in general, the good people make up for it. So the really nice people that
Yeah.
support me on Patreon and people that buy my art, it's not about them supporting me. It's also about making friends. Like you meet some really cool people and you make friends with some really nice people that, they like the same things that you do. They like, Star Wars, or they like Lord of the Rings, or they're into Magic the Gathering. I mean, I'm a big Magic the Gathering fan and player, and I'm trying to get into Magic at the moment, like doing a big portfolio of work for them.
Oh, okay.
It's great because you meet people that are into the same thing as you, and you make, I suppose, lifelong friends, other artists or other, just fans. And I don't even like to call it as fans; it's kind of just friends. Everyone's a friend, So
Yeah.
so
Yeah, that's nice. That sounds really like a lovely lifestyle to meet people like that. I'm not I haven't met that many people in my life, but I guess you must have met more people than most people.
yeah,
You spent a lot of time meeting people, I guess.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to actually be a teacher, so I used to teach art and design as well for about 4 or 5 years. So I did meet a lot of students and meet a lot of people, and I would help a lot of students, on their journey of being artists as well. So designers and graphic designers and all that sort of stuff. So, but
Yeah. You met even more. 4 to 5 years, you said?
yeah, it was about 4 years of doing that too. So that was from
Cool.
2007 to about 2011 before I started full-time freelance. So yeah, that was pretty good fun.
Yeah.
But I found I wasn't making enough art. I was teaching too much, so I went back to making art. And so
Yeah.
my background, I was a graphic designer beforehand. And I was doing fine art. I was exhibiting in galleries and that, and selling original paintings.
Oh.
While at night I would do my illustrations and paintings, and during the day I would do graphic design for companies. Because in Australia there wasn't much illustration work. It's actually grown because of the internet and because of just video games are just growing, as you know. So
Yeah, it's exploded since like the last 10 or 20 years, or 10 to 15 years or so.
yeah, I hope the bubble doesn't burst. I hope it keeps on exploding, because I think it creates a lot of work for people. I think.
I think it'll keep going for a while yet, and then I mean eventually it won't explode, but I think it might level off a little bit.
Yeah.
But we still have a lot of people in the world who are not even online at all, and who have talent and who are gonna get online. They're gonna get a computer and a Wacom, and they have talent, and also some of the new additions are gonna be customers, clients who want to, so there's more. There's more commerce coming, in down the pipeline as the internet grows to envelop the entire Earth. I mean, we're about 7 billion people, but I don't know, maybe half are connected, or I don't know. I don't know what the number is. I could imagine like roughly half, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less, are actually connected right now.
And I think that's exciting. It's
yeah.
I don't even think I've tapped. I have a great presence physically at conventions and shows and stuff like that, but I don't even think I'm on DeviantArt, and I am on that ArtStation, but I haven't updated it, but I haven't even got a really good internet presence, so to speak. Like, it's okay, but it's not like Sakimi Chan or anyone that's amazing. Like, I don't know why, but I think it's just having time to actually sit there and find where you got to post your art, or where do you post the comic, You know, I'm still trying to figure that out. Well, I figured out some of it, but it's more, you know, I suppose finding the time to put that into marketing online, your digital presence. Like I haven't even tried, you know, pushing that, you know, and imagine if I did, you know, and imagine if the net grows as well. So, but hey, you know, if you've got any tips or tricks, let me know.
Yeah, I wish I had a magic answer, but I think in Sakimi-chan's case, it's that she was on DeviantArt
For years.
from many years ago, and she's been there. I mean, I think I opened my account like 8 years ago or something, and I haven't used it for many years until just recently. I didn't post stuff. So what she's been doing all these years is posting, you know.
Yeah.
And also she has some talent. Some people say that she uses it in a way that they don't like, but I mean it's up to her how she uses her talent. But she has the talent to draw stuff that people like to see. So that combination, you know, combined with pounding away at her DeviantArt account, you know, which has really turned into, then when she opened Patreon, also she did that earlier than most other people.
She was in it before everyone else.
And all the DeviantArt people just followed her to Patreon basically.
Yeah.
All her fans followed her.
Yeah, I'd like to see. I mean, I think she's got good art. I don't think her art's bad. I did make a rant about it on Facebook. I don't think what she's doing is bad. I'm not against fan art, but I actually want to make fan art, but just have it in my portfolio. You know, not to sell. But the fact I don't like the idea of selling that stuff, and I'm all about original content. You know, as much original content as possible. Because I'd like to see her break away from the fan art thing and kind of. And I'm not saying this in a negative way, just to see, you know, who is the real Sakimi-chan. Do you know what I mean? Like I know you could say it is the fan art and it is that manga style, but what's her story? What would a story that she writes be like? You know? And
that might come out later. I think right now she's fairly young, and right now she's just experimenting to see how far can she push this. This paradigm. How far can she push the paradigm? You know, it would be interesting to see how far can it go before it levels off. Because just like the internet, when it's connected, everyone on Earth, some things are gonna level off. I think she can still continue for quite a while, and then it's gonna level off. And I think right now she's just pushing it to see what, you know. Like anybody would, you know, like, wow, this is cool, this is working, how far can I push it, you know, and then maybe 10 years from now or 20 years from now, she's going to start wondering, like, you know, about the meaning of life and her career and her work, and maybe she's going to start coming out with, you know, original stuff. But that's up to her. But that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it is. For me, like, it does worry me, though, like, I have done fan art, and I do have it on my DeviantArt. I have some Game of Thrones stuff, and for me, I would sell it, but for me, I just give it away. I mean, I'd like to see the legalities of actually making DVDs, tutorials on how to make it. I mean, you're probably still making money out of it, but it's illegal. But what really worries me, working for Disney and the big guys, you know, they do clamp down on copyright. And like my colleague in America, Robert, who a guy I know, I can't say too much about him, but his friends make a lot of fan art, and look, I've got nothing against people doing it. I really, it doesn't bother me because it's not my competition. I do all original prints, all original ideas, and I do public domain, which is like old stuff that everyone's forgotten about, like Cthulhu and Alice in Wonderland and you know, Wizard of Oz. I do stuff that I'm allowed to paint. But you know, he was saying that his friend who does a lot of the fan art, and that doesn't even work for Disney or Warner Brothers or anyone like that. Or DC Comics. He got sued. You know what I mean? And that's in the US.
Yeah.
But you know, you wonder, like, will things eventually start to be clamped down upon? Do you know what I mean? Like, will that actually happen? And I actually think it will. I think, unfortunately, that's what's going to happen. And I don't want to. For me, I don't want to run the risk. And for me, I'm going down the slower route of doing all original content. So what that means is that, okay, I may not be selling as much work as everyone else, but it might take me longer to make my Patreon popular, but like at least I'm doing my own stuff, my own stories, and like just I am making a profit from the cons, which is great in Australia of all places, which I'm really happy about, and that took me a while, it took me about 3 or 4 years to get the right formula of art, but and honestly, I hope people keep on making fan art, and I hope no one gets into trouble. I really hope maybe like these big companies like Marvel and DC don't clamp down on people. They kind of turn around and say, hey, look, you want to do it, you pay for a small licensing fee, and you can do it. Do you know what I mean? Or whatever it is.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah. So this guy was in America, and how much was he making out of his fan art?
He was making a lot of money.
Roughly.
He was making a lot of money. I don't know the numbers, but it was like a full-time gig for him. You know what I mean?
That was his living. He made.
And so he basically has got a fine of $12,000, a summons to court, and then he had to pay extra money as well later after the court hearing, and after that went through. And that is disheartening for someone that obviously. I mean, he probably does want to just work for Marvel and DC or whoever it is, but and like a lot of people, I hear a lot of people, they kind of say, it's good practice to getting into Marvel and DC, and it's good practice, it helps me to build up my portfolio. I agree, yes it does, but I think you could probably practice on your own and not make money out of it, and just put it on DeviantArt, get a following, and submit it to Marvel, or go down to Marvel in America, go to a con and show your folio, and you'd get a job. Do you know what I mean? If you persist, you could actually do it like that. You don't need to sell it to become. Like, I got picked up by Disney, and I wasn't selling Disney prints. Do you know what I mean? Like they just saw my portfolio, they saw my landscapes, and they're like, "Hey, you know how to paint environments. We're going to hire you for this." And that's the reality, but a lot of kids use that as justification, or people, should I say, like, it's my exposure, it will get me a job at Disney, or it will get me a job at Marvel, and how am I going to get it paid until then? And, and I think the thing that kind of, it doesn't annoy me, but I get upset, it doesn't affect me, but what I get upset for is the other artists that are working for Marvel, they are working for DC Comics, they are working for some big names, and they want to sell. They're selling the legally licensed prints. They're selling stuff that's licensed to be sold. Like they actually did the covers, and they may sell it for a little bit more, like $20 more. But someone will go buy fan art because it's cheaper. You know what I mean? They're at the same convention, and those guys are getting hurt. And all that hard work they've done to get into Marvel or DC, they're not getting respected in a way. So I think it's. Like I said, I'm not against it, but I like to raise awareness about it, because, a lot of people kind of just say, well, if everyone's doing it, it's okay. You know what I mean? If everyone's stealing a bit of art and selling it, it's okay. I kind of don't like that mentality. It's not really okay, because like if someone gets caught, then things are going to start changing. So they already are. So, but there was an article written up about it not long ago too, I think. Someone, But anyway, I'll stop about it because I'm probably losing patrons as I say this. So I've been attacked for it before for having an opinion. I don't think we should be attacked for having an opinion, or trying to speak the truth. Well, it's my truth, but I feel passionate about it.
I think it's not a good idea to make a Marvel character and draw it exactly the same way, to make it look like it might have been a real cover. You know? Exactly. I mean, good for that person that they can actually draw that well, because to start with, there's not a lot of people in the world that can draw that as well as somebody who works for Marvel. Mm-hmm. But then on top of that, to make it, it's basically fine art forgery, which I have had some experience with. You have to give the artist props for being good enough to forge, for instance, Gauguin. But if you put Gauguin, then if you add something in the image that didn't exist in Gauguin's image, and everybody recognizes, oh yeah, that's an anachronistic item right there. That's obviously not a Gauguin. Then it's not fine art forgery anymore. But if you make it look just like Gauguin and you put his name at the bottom, Gauguin, and a year, where it could have been painted by him, then you're doing something illegal. It's fine art forgery. And I've done some fan art, but what I do is I change it up. It's obviously not the real art when I do something. I did a mashup, for instance, of Miley Cyrus and what's her name?
I think parody is legal.
Joker's sidekick,
I think
Harley Quinn.
Parody is allowed. When it's a parody, you're actually allowed to do it.
Well, it's not really a parody, but it's changed anyway. Yeah. I mean, you might argue if it's a parody or not, but well, it's a parody of Miley Cyrus, but so she can't sue me, but the DC universe might be able to sue me for using the clothing of Harley Quinn, but it's even the clothing has changed. So
exactly.
It's quite obviously not the real Harley Quinn.
Exactly.
And I've done a few more like that. Mashing it up a little bit.
It's very true. Yeah. But
so I mean, it's instantly obvious that it's not the real thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
And I know people who have used Mickey Mouse. As they draw Mickey Mouse as an old man, stuff like that. You can instantly tell it's not done by Walt Disney.
Exactly, yeah.
Violent images with Mickey Mouse. I mean, Disney can still sue them probably, but I don't know if they do. I've seen that in Sweden. I haven't seen it in America. Maybe they would go after them if they were in America, but.
Yeah.
If it's outside of America, I think it adds a whole level of difficulty for them.
It doesn't affect me. It's not my competition. You know what I mean? Like, I do original content. I paint dragons and fantasy, and look, I dig like some of the fan art. I really think it's amazing. Like what some people do. The painting. There is an art form to it, and like I dig what you do too. That's why I'm supporting you. So, it's not. But it's people that do that original spin. They're not directly copying. That it's kind of cool, I mean, I've got like my own version of Hobbiton, which I painted and won an award with CG Hub, and Weta have actually said, hey, that's cool. The guys from Weta looked at it and they really liked it, So I think it's also about if you're doing justice to the topic as well. Like if you're not, you're not destroying what people have created or you're making it worse. If you paint something and it's a bad version of something, then I think you can get chased down for that as well. So. Which is
and especially if you write along the top, Marvel superhero or something like that, Like.
Yeah, that's all good.
Yeah.
What do you think of this Cthulhu? Do you think Lovecraft will be turning in his grave, or do you reckon he'll like this? It's just a start. It's just the base. Needs to let it work, but
he won't be turning in his grave. It's a cool idea. I think you're putting that poisonous octopus. I forget what it's called.
It's a blue ring octopus. They're blue ring.
Yeah.
They're actually.
You're putting that pattern on the skin of Cthulhu himself.
Yeah. Because I thought, well, Cthulhu's like an elder god that's so freaking destructive. Like I was thinking about it, right? He can swim. He can fly, right? He's ultimately so deadly as an elder god, right? But also, what about if? Okay, the only thing that could stop him is if something was like a ship could fly, like a plane could fly, or some mech warrior could fly, and shoot bullets at him from a different distance. Okay.
Yeah, but that doesn't he have like magic powers or something, like God, like?
Yeah.
Can he create stuff like an invisible barrier
exactly. So and I think, what about making his skin deadly? So even if he touches things, so like people might be able to get him from a range, like shoot him from a distance and fly off. He can chase him down, hunt him down, and then just touch him with his poisonous blue ring octopus skin. So
maybe he can like spray stuff too from a distance.
Yeah, well, that's the blue ring octopus in Australia.
Yeah, I noticed that on the edge of your screen there.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it.
Oh, it's Australian?
It's Australian, yeah.
Oh, typical. Like everything else poisonous in the world. Like everything that's the most poisonous of its kind, it comes from Australia.
Actually, the most poisonous snake is in Africa.
Okay.
I can't remember the name of it. It's like two little snakes. It's a brown version and a green version. If you get bitten, you die within an hour. But there is the next one is Australian, and it's in the central desert of Australia, and I think it's like a red belly brown snake. There's another one, a taipan as well. They're like the
Yeah.
second and third most poisonous in the world. If they bite you, you've only got 2 hours. You're screwed. It's over. Your life is over.
Oh.
Yeah, it's quite scary. So yeah, I would say we have got some deadly stuff. And believe it or not, I asked Dad. I said to Dad, "Oh, there's blue ring octopuses only in like the eastern states, Queensland and stuff." He's like, "No, actually, there's some in South Australia. Somewhere in some of the beaches, we do have the blue ring octopus in my hometown." And I was just like,
Oh.
really? Oh, crap. It's like, I better be careful when I swim. I didn't even know that. I was just like, oh, damn. But
I was born in Adelaide actually, and as a toddler, I had a close encounter with a what do you call those little red spiders?
Redback spider.
Redback.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't actually on me, but it was in my crib at one time.
God.
My mom told me, yeah.
Yeah, that's
so I don't know how close I was to it, but
yeah, dude, they're pretty harmless. Like the only way they will attack you is if you like try and destroy the web and then try and like kill their babies. Then they'll start biting you and chasing you down.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never been bitten by a redback. I've seen them all in my garage. They're like all over the house. Like I reckon they're like underneath our house. There's probably like a swarm of them. They're hiding out.
Yeah.
But I've never been bitten by anything vicious. But yeah, I thought initially, apologise. Social media, I thought Cthulhu was between the oceans of Sydney and Auckland and Dunedin in New Zealand. But he actually, when I was reading the story, because when I do my paintings, I read and research, or I listen to audiobooks as well. And I misheard the audiobook. What actually happened was Lovecraft talks about Cthulhu, and what he actually says is that there was an explorer that lived in Sydney, but he travelled to New Zealand and he stumbled across Cthulhu, right?
Okay.
But it was when he went to Dunedin. It was basically when he was in Auckland and Dunedin. So he started his trip in Auckland, went all the way to Dunedin, and ended up sailing on a ship. And I think Rirriere, it's called. That's the city of where Cthulhu's from. This is kind of based on Rirriere. I've got to change the colour to more greens in there. But Rirriere is actually, it's between New Zealand and between South America. Okay, so it's in that ocean.
Okay.
Yeah, so I apologise to people on Facebook or whatever. I got it wrong, so...
like really South Pacific, like
pretty much,
really
yeah, it's in the
far.
South Pacific.
Yeah.
But it's still Australian. Hey, that's Australian waters, so it's near Australia.
But
it's all the same.
It almost sounded French when you said that. How do you spell that?
Yeah, I think it's Rlyeh. I don't know.
Oh, his invented name. Yeah.
So
it's difficult to pronounce that. Yeah, he made that up. I remember now. I've seen that. Yeah. I thought you were saying like a French word or something.
No.
Okay, cool. No, that.
Yeah. So
So it's a fictional island basically in the middle of the
exactly.
ocean.
But look, there's nothing stopping Cthulhu having a swim between Australia and New Zealand. I mean, if he's in Dunedin's the south coast of New Zealand. Like below that is basically the west coast, east coast of Australia, Victoria and South Australia. Like, well, it's pretty close. You know what I mean? Like, if he's swimming in Dunedin and they saw him off the coast of Dunedin, I mean, Australia's next. And why not? Why not? He's got an octopus head. The only octopus I know of that is deadly is the blue ring octopus. So I thought might as well give him that different touch. So. And look, it's about making something different, isn't it? You can't make everything exactly the same, as everyone else, when they're painting things. So.
No, that's cool. So he rises from he wakes, he sleeps, right?
Yeah, he's asleep
and then
in like this little see this little building here? Can you see? Like it's Cyclopean architecture, right? So Cyclopean architecture. I even researched Cyclopean architecture. And the origins of Cyclopean architecture are actually Greek. So the first recorded people to do Cyclopean architecture were the Mycenaean Greeks, and that's when you just get stone blocks and you use no mortar and you just put stones upon each other. Do you know what I mean? And then the Incans and the Mayans, they also had Cyclopean architecture as well. But
Oh.
yeah, I thought I'd give it a Greek touch with the architecture, seeing as it's Cyclopean. So it's got a Greek Australian touch. So
Yeah.
something
sort of like you.
exactly, a bit like me, yeah.
So people would go mad when looking at his image or his face or something.
Yeah,
or?
I think that's the story. Like they go mad, they go insane from looking at him, because he's like he's got dark magic. You know, he's dark. He's the elder god. He's one of the first gods before time. Before, you know, he's from another planet. He's alien as well. He's not actually from Earth. He's not native to Earth. So, as far as I know, and he also enters in people's dreams. You know what I mean? So like he communicates through dreams. So, and for me, like painting him, because my comic book universe is about dreams, right? And it's about the mages and dragons. It's about 6 races that have the power to control dreams. Dragons, angels, all that sort of stuff. I was thinking, you know, Cthulhu could actually make an appearance in an issue. You know, he actually could. He could teleport to Equatoria, which is my world, and to the Luminous Ages era and have a fight with Thrakos, you know. And everyone that tries to fight him goes insane, you know. So
yeah, that could be from him controlling their minds.
Yeah.
Like he puts them to sleep briefly and then puts this outrageous dream purely constructed to make humans mad and into their heads, and poof, they're mad. Yeah, or he could be a dream. I mean, you could do it that way too, because you have other races that put dreams in people's heads. So somebody could dream about this Lovecraftian sort of. I mean, you have the field open to you. It wouldn't be plagiarism. Somebody could dream about anything, you know.
Yeah, and I don't think it is plagiarism, because I think everyone has been writing Cthulhu. Because Cthulhu's 100 years old anyway, so.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
But, yeah, that'd be cool. I think we'll do something like that. Just an idea.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of ideas of the comic, which is cool. A lot of stuff that we're doing. So, but yeah, that's interesting. Like, no one's joined the Google Hangout. Wait, anyone joining in? This is interesting.
I saw a couple of names.
Hey, we've got
I might just type.
Who's that?
Hey, I might just take the chance to jump in. Hey, Anthony.
Hey.
I met you at Supernova.
Ah, yeah, awesome. Yeah.
Hey, Stephen.
Hey.
There we go. We've got someone.
Good to hear you guys.
Yeah, welcome.
Inspiring.
Do you have?
I'm just getting. Pardon?
Sorry, what did you say? You just got in, or have you been listening?
Oh, yeah. I've been listening a bit. It's really interesting stuff what you've been talking about with like the whole licensing and adaptation and things like that. I guess it's really handy to me, kind of, you know, as I'm kind of bridging into a little bit of the digital art, you know, knowing, I guess, where you stand on a lot of those things, because don't want to be sued.
For sure. It's not about being sued. I don't think it's about being sued. It's just more about knowing, like, educating people about it, you know, and you know, like I said, I don't think there's anything wrong with fan art. You know, I think even if you wanted to make a portfolio of Star Wars art and have it on DeviantArt, you might get picked up by Lucasfilm or by Disney by doing that. And I don't want to, like, but it's a great area when you start selling that. You know, like it's actually wrong, but it's also like, you know, you need to get permission, you know, to do that. Like, and either pay for a license or look into how you can do it. Because I'm not against it. It's just like, I'm just all for doing it the right way. Do you know what I mean? So.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like I actually had. I think I met you at Brisbane, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I actually had a guy, another artist who was there. And I'm still like, he really liked my comic book Luminous Ages, and he's an artist as well. And I told him about the story and the universe, and he's like, "Oh, do you mind if I contribute to your stuff? Like, would you mind if I created a mage or?" And I'm like, "Dude, go for it," you know. And like, you know, it depends how he does it. Like, if he adapts it in a really nice way, I'm happy for him if he wants to say he's done artwork for my comic, and I'm happy. And he does it as fan art. I'm actually happy for him to. As long if he asks me politely, and I really like what he's done, and it fits in with my universe, I'm happy for him to sell prints of it as long as he puts like the logo for Luminous Ages on there. You know what I mean? So as long as he says where it's from and tells people where this character is from, you know. So you know, which was quite an honour to have someone that I hardly knew turn around and say, hey, I want to paint one of your characters in your comic book. You know, I'm like, oh wow, thanks. so yeah, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I'm just painting Cthulhu. You can see my process. So
this is really cool.
Yeah.
How long have you spent on it so far?
I probably I started it probably Wednesday, because Monday and Tuesday we had to send out all the Patreon stuff. So I started since Wednesday. So it's been about 3 or 4 days. But when I say 3 or 4 days, it wasn't just this. There was another 4 or 5 concept ideas. I'm not sure if I've got them here. But I'll show you. I had about 4 concepts that I was roughing out, and I did a lot of research. So Wednesday I spent the whole day listening to the audio tape of Cthulhu. I read some books, and I also was looking at like references as well. So I had to look through my photographic references. I looked, Thursday I was just looking for references, and I really didn't start till Friday. So it's only been 2.5 days on this painting. So.
Right.
But I'll just show you the stuff. So it was, you've probably seen us on the Patreon, but that was the 4 ideas that I did on Friday, and then I picked this one. I'm like, yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I'll go for this one.
Right.
Yeah, so they're all sketched out. Some of them, like, I basically dumped a photo in a couple of them just to give a mood and a sensation, but I've pulled out that photo and I've painted that all over the top of that, and I've redesigned that photo. I don't keep the exact photo. Like, all these rocks have been repainted over again, and I'm going to rework this to make them look a bit different and give them different shapes as well. So it's not going to be So this photo as well is my photo. You know what I mean? I went and took a photo. I've been blessed to have travelled. I went through Melbourne and the Great Ocean Road. This photo is the 12 Apostles.
Yeah.
But I'm going to rework.
I can see that. That's cool.
But I'm going to rework it and make it a bit different. You'll probably see the finished result will be totally different. So, yeah.
Right. Hey, can I ask, what is your actual process in the way that you convert, like, the images to painting? Because sometimes I find that, like, I've tried that several times and it can get a little sketchy. Like, how do you paint over a type of realism over that keeps it consistent?
Well, right at the moment, I'm using a brush. Like, I've got a brush that's a hard round brush, and I've got a dual brush, which is like a textured brush. And so I go in and I play around with the spacing, and I give it more of a textured feel. And I've got a whole range of brushes that look like traditional media that I've gotten from the net, or I've made myself from my real painting marks and stuff. And I've just gone in and made I basically play around with this and give them a lot of variation. Like round about there, that's probably a good brush that I would use. And I just go in and paint on top of this. Or I paint it from scratch again. Literally, the photo is just put in there as a base. You know what I mean? It's never. I have to paint over all this, and I have to redesign it. I'm just using it as a color palette. And I'm also, what I'm doing is I do color balances on it, and I change the color balance to make it look more dynamic as well than the actual real photo. In fact, like, if you have a look at these, I actually had the pencil was somewhere else, but I actually penciled all of these. All of these were originally penciled. And then what I do is I pencil my idea out first, and then I kind of go, hey, I'm going to slap a photo that fits that there. Do you know what I mean? I didn't do that with every single one, but this was I actually had a pencil, a rough idea of what I wanted already penciled out with both of these. Where I've dumped the photo in, there were actually pencil marks which I deleted. I just erased them. But as you can see, there's some pencil marks here of where the actual Cyclopean structure, the ancient Cyclopean structure, was actually going to be. And then, obviously I had all these pencil marks for these mountains, and I found a photo from New Zealand, and I was just like, okay, I'm going to dump that. That fits it perfectly. But it's kind of like when you're doing this, you have a look. I have like millions and millions and millions, literally millions of photos and folders set up to kind of find the right, I suppose, reference for the piece. Like this is, I really like the feeling of these clouds. You know what I mean? I like the mood and the colors in that cloud. So I'm going to actually paint from reference on that. I'm not going to dump that photo in. I'm actually going to go, okay, I want to, I pulled that up in Photoshop. I'm going to go grab this and I'm going to go, all right, this is pretty cool. I'm going to reduce the size so we can actually see my painting. And what I do is I try and paint the crap out of it. That's a simple question. I get rid of any photo
right.
and I paint as much as I can. And the photo is just, if I have any element of a photo, which I have in these apostles in the water, I remove that completely and I paint a lot of it on top of it. Also use a mixer brush, which is really cool. The mixer brush in Photoshop allows you to pick different mixing tools which give it a painterly feel, which usually I use this 25 brush or I use this one over here, and that gives it like a paint strokes and gives it that kind of a feel. So you can go in and like, you know, blend in stuff over the photo. You can paint back in.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and what I would do is see this 12 Apostles photo. I'll just grab it. I'll pull it out of here. Create a new document. Just going to check what's going on here.
While you're doing that, hey Stephen, what do you, is your style kind of similar to Anthony's here, or
Yeah,
what do you find yourself doing art-wise with that?
I'm using a Wacom. I'm using Photoshop. I use photos in a similar way. I believe that we should always try to get some reference if we can. I spend a lot of time looking for references at work, in the office, and at home when I'm working on my own stuff. Google Image is obviously the preferred tool, but also Pinterest. Pinterest is pretty good. Pinterest.com.
Right.
That's pretty good.
Use that. I have also images already stored from many years back. I mean, when I find a really good image, I just keep it in my library, and I've built up a fairly big library, so I searched through that too, because I can't remember exactly what I have in it, because there's so much in it. So whenever I have a new project, I start off searching for images in these three locations, and then I cut and paste them together as a sort of a dummy, you know, a dummy object with,
right.
like a reference sheet. It's like you kind of like to make a reference sheet, don't you? Really, that's what I do. So would you do the same thing, Steve? Or?
Yeah, a reference sheet. You could call it a maquette. A movie maker might call it a smaller clay model from which they then model a bigger clay model. Printer makers call them dummies when they sort of dummy up, or they used to anyway. Back in the old days when I was in print, they used to make, like, out of cardboard and tape. They used to to kludge together a kind of a dummy object so that they could see what their, you know, that page goes there and that page goes there, and it folds out like this and it folds back in like this, you know. So we used to call that a dummy. I don't know if that's what they do anymore, but
yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of fantasy illustrators, even if they're painting with acrylics, and even me, when I paint with acrylic, some of even the really older guys and girls that have been doing this for years, they have like, they Frankenstein a whole bunch of references, photos, and they put them on the side of their painting, and then they paint from that reference, and they create their whole new dragon or whatever it is. So, I mean, I've even seen like John Howe, who's like one of the guys that work for Wedo, like one of the master illustrators. He always has a photo next to his original painting, and there's nothing wrong with using references, you know. And
you can keep them separate too, but since I only have one screen at home, so I like to put them all in one single image, so I can keep it next to limited real estate that I have on my
you can
on
see
my
my
screen.
screen's getting flooded now. So, but like,
Yeah, exactly.
what I would do is like you can see that's the original photo, right, of the landscape photo that I took in Melbourne, right, and so it's quite a lot. It's quite different to the landscape here, but what I can do is like now that I've painted out some of these details, I can look in and paint from the reference what I've done here, or I can change it because I've got this as as my reference sheet, so I can zoom in and have a look at what I've done here. I can go and check and paint this back in or out, or delete, or blend it all in so it looks more painterly. And I can change the structures of these because I can look at this, I can go, all right, well, let's say I zoom in on this. I've got to get the right layer, so I apologize just for 1 second. I've got to find where my layer's gone. Here it is. So I've got 3 screens up, so I've got another screen somewhere else. But okay, this is the actual area that we're painting in. Like I'm looking at this area here, and I'm looking at the structure, and I'm like, all right, well I want to make this bigger. Can I make this area way larger? So I'm going to paint on top of that, and play around with that more. And if I lose some of the qualities, if I lose this texture, or I lose whatever information that is in the photo, I can zoom in on this photo here and go, all right, well there's some cool rocks up there, so I've got to remember that there's a bit of highlight coming in over here. So I'm still doing a study. Do you know what I mean? Even though I've painted over this photo, I'm painting over this whole piece of art. But I'm learning how rocks work, how this particular formation of rock works. I still have up this reference over here, and I repaint everything, and I change the structure because, I wanted to make it like a fantasy work. I want it to have that painterly feel, and it's just a fast method, and I've seen like John Park, who's a really good concept artist and an illustrator, and he works for Magic the Gathering. Uses the exact same technique. I thought he painted all of his work. Well, he does. He does paint everything digitally, but he does a sketch like what I've done here. I have this is the Cthulhu sketch you saw before. He starts off with a sketch. So I've got to turn all this off 1 second. Turn all this stuff off. He has a sketch over here. This is my original pencil sketch, right, of Cthulhu. And he starts like that, and then he just starts building it up. You start with a sketch, and then you dump stuff in there. So that's my original of him. I'm not sure if we've got any other pencil work. I think I deleted it. I always delete my pencils for some reason. I'm a naughty boy. But then you can see here, I start painting in. There's hardly no photos in there. There's maybe a little bit of texture in the actual thing, but then I start building it up, and then I dump some photo in the back, and then I paint on top of that. And so it all starts out with a pencil. There was a pencil, like I said, of the whole environment. That was actually done as a pencil. I actually penciled in the whole thing, but it's gone. Oh wait, this is the old background, I know. Like I said, I get rid of a lot of stuff. Yeah, there you go. That's the old. That's the old rough of the actual island, the Cyclopean island.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so, and then I just build it up. You start roughing it in. Paint, you still got to draw it all. You still have to come up with the idea. But then you might find a photo that is inspiring, and you go, hey, I'm going to whack that in. And then there we go, we start building this up. Everything's in a layer as well, so I can play around with this. Anyway, Steve, so is there any questions for Steve? Because I think Steve is going to be here for another 45 minutes, am I right? So you've got another 45 minutes?
Yeah, 45, half an hour. Yeah. I mean, we started shortly after noon, right? Yeah. Shortly after 12.
Yeah, it's about half an hour. So any questions?
Right.
Yeah, you mentioned John Park. Shadi Safadi is also another guy who works in a similar way. And he actually has more YouTube stuff more freely available stuff that is fun to have a look at, because he really goes through his process in those videos.
Yeah, he's got some cool stuff.
Yeah, but this is a concept art workflow. For fine art, I'm not sure. I mean, that's probably more individual, but the concept art workflow has changed in recent years to this because of increased competition and pressure of time and just the demands of the profession. So instead of taking 2.5 days like you have with this one, the concept artist, he might have to finish something like this in 1 day. So they're really going to go to town with cutting and pasting stuff that they find. They also do sometimes some work in 3D, like they might model these cliffs and things. They actually might have a model of Cthulhu already, because the job that they're gonna do might be in a movie, and the movie people might already have made a preliminary Cthulhu model. So they would give the concept artist would get maybe also a ship model. They would. I mean, these are probably freely available, or you can buy one for maybe $10. A fairly simple model of a sailing ship. They'd get that, they'd buy that, they'd put it in, they'd make an ocean, they'd quickly model the ocean maybe in ZBrush, they'd quickly model some cliffs, not in ZBrush even, but just in SketchUp like I mentioned earlier, or Max or whatever, and then they'd light the whole thing, and they could do all that in just a few hours. And then, so after that, then they'd start painting. They might source a few ocean pictures and cliff pictures and building stone building pictures and octopus pictures like Anthony has done.
Yeah, I think a lot of even illustrators are doing this technique as well now, because it even speeds up the process of creating a finished illustration. Like, this is all going to be totally painted in the end, because I want to submit it to Magic the Gathering. I want to have it as a print that I sell at cons, and I'm a big fan of Cthulhu myself. But the thing is, like, I will, like I said, paint on top of everything. You could go from here, you could go, all right, I'm going to do another study of this and then create an illustration. But you've already saved yourself 3 days in doing that. So I just keep on painting. But like I said,
back in the old days, they used to do like color study. They used to do perspective study. They used to sit with charcoal with a live, before they had camera even, they used to have live people sitting there. Okay, come back next Thursday. I'm going to work a little bit on this, come back next Thursday for another session, and so on and so on. That's why it would take them 6 months to make a painting that looks like this, And nowadays, with the help of technology, we do it quicker. It still takes the same amount of talent, I believe, to end up with, a good result. So, it's just quicker now.
Yeah.
That's why this technique is spreading to, as you said, to illustrators, because it is helpful. It helps the artist work faster.
Yeah, I actually, there's an illustrator here who actually worked on the Bananas and Pajamas TV show. Do you guys, any of you heard of that, Bananas and Pajamas?
Yeah, I've heard it.
I go for coffee with this guy regularly. I haven't been, actually. The guy's called Murray, and I can't give away his last name, but he's a very well-known illustrator, and he's old, like older than all of us, and he's a great guy. And he's been doing it for years, he asked me my technique, and I paint everything from scratch as well. I do jobs where I totally paint everything from scratch, like, where was it, this one over here, the angel I made, I painted from scratch, and I'll show you that in a minute. But he goes to me, I've done a lot of advertising work, and he goes, he's even done children's books illustrations and other illustration, and this is a veteran illustrator that's been illustrating for so long, like for 30, 40 years, maybe longer, and he goes, oh yeah, I bashed this photo together and I painted it. I chased on top of this whole photo and I painted it again, because the tools allow you to do that, and there's nothing wrong with doing that, you know what I mean? And he bashed over the whole photo, whereas like stuff like this has got it was painted from scratch. I looked at references, but it was painted from scratch. This is my studio, this is based on my studio assistant, Christou. She works for me. She actually posed. She jumped off of like a step, and we got the perfect photo, and then I painted that. So she doesn't look like that normally though.
Yeah, that's what I do with the dummies that I mentioned earlier. That I just paint them by looking at them. I don't paint over them or anything.
Yeah, so this is all painted from scratch. No, I didn't paint on top of the photo. I didn't dump a photo in this. I used textured brushes and painted it all, and same with the Alice in Wonderland work as well. That was my friend Mara. She cosplayed as Alice. I got the pose right, but I changed her face completely. So I made it. She's dark haired, so I made her blonde. But that's what Christy looks like. She does have blonde hair, but she couldn't pose for the Alice because we didn't have the right costume for her. So she did an angel. So yeah. But yeah, it's just. But you can make a photo. You can push a photo, or I wouldn't say photo. You can paint a piece, dump in a photo in the background or in the texture in an area, and paint on top of it, and turn it into a totally illustrated piece like this as well. And to hear it from an old guy that's been doing it for so long, saying, oh yeah, I did this advertising job, or I did this children's book illustration, and I dumped a photo in here, it made me feel kind of really relieved in a way. I'm like, okay, so it's not cheating, it's part of the process. It's what tools allow us to do, you know.
Yeah, it's not cheating, but as you said about fan art, you just got to be careful, because if you grab a design that a living artist has made and he put his name on it and it's available for all to see, and then you send your concept to Microsoft or whatever, you know,
no.
big companies like that, they have people that just sit there and look through the image for, you know, stuff that is other people's design. So you just got to change it enough. You just have to change it enough, and then it's your design, and then it's okay.
If you're going to add a photo in, try not to use other people's photos as well. Try and take the photography.
Yeah.
Or if you do use their photos, paint from the reference. You know, try and change, like Stephen's saying, change it up a lot, paint over it, make it completely new, and then you should be fine. So like that's why oh my god, if you see my photo reference, I actually have like my actual reference folder is huge. Like, because I've traveled a lot, I've been around the world doing art, you know, for years now, and I've just got like libraries and libraries of photography that I use, you know, and I don't have time to even go through all of it, you know. I reckon I could just spend like a whole week just going through and sorting them all out one day, you know, one time, but you know, time doesn't permit me to do that. I just, when I'm on a project, I kind of remember, okay, where are all my ocean shots? Where are all the photos of lizards that I took? You know, where are all the photos of people that I've got in my folders? And I try and organize it when I can. And that's why I take my own photos. I get stuff off the net, you know, I get a pose off the net or whatever, but it's really important to...
Yeah, the human body doesn't have copyright on it, but the photograph might have. So that's why you may have to change the lighting a little bit, you may have to change the pose a little bit, but you don't have to change the anatomy, because nobody can copyright anatomy. You know, that's.
Yeah, I've got one student right now. She's actually doing original drawings of my work because that's how she wants to learn. She likes what I do, and she's like, but she's like, am I okay to do that? I'm like, yeah, no worries. You know, as long as you're not, you know, she's not going to sell it, and I know she wouldn't, but you know, she knows that you know, she can do that because that's how she's learning. And I said to her, I've also said to her, study from nature as well. You know, it's nothing wrong with actually going out there and doing studies and you know, taking photos of things and that. So, but yeah, it's just about anything. Just be conscious of what you're doing. Really, I suppose that's the lesson.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's pretty encouraging. I mean, like you were saying about the older guy that you were meeting with, I guess it's relieving for me to get a picture into your process to that, because sometimes kind of starting off, you're like, am I doing this right? You know, it is very encouraging, I guess, getting to see that and get a bit of a confirmation in some things. It's looking really good.
Thanks, man. Yeah. I'm pretty happy with this too, actually. I was fighting to make this image work or make Cthulhu look good, because there's a lot of pressure with me and Cthulhu. There's a bit of backstory there, so I've got the same birthday as H.P. Lovecraft, so it's kind of like a lot of pressure on me. Like, if I don't get it right, Lovecraft's going to curse me, you know. I'll be cursed for life. So, yeah. So I've actually got the whole of next week to finish this up before Christmas, so I'm going to make it good for everyone, you know, and myself. So, but what I was going to ask? I was going to ask Stephen a question, but you go first.
Yeah.
Yes, you can ask a question first. So, if anyone wants to ask.
Who? Oh, me?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, I don't know if you talked about this before I came in, but Stephen, how did you start with your process in art? Like, did you start with? Like, how did you get into it?
Well, it was all the way to the beginning. I mean, I just started drawing when I was a kid, and my relatives used to say, "Oh, look at Steven, he's good at drawing." So I was like, okay, so that's what I'll focus on drawing because I liked it, but also because I was being told by everybody around me that I was pretty good at it. So I really I just stuck with it since then. You know, I've always been into it. You know, art, drawing. You know, studying art and drawing and practicing and getting better. So I went and bought one of these courses that you could get in the 60s and 70s and you know, learning chapter by chapter how to draw better, how to paint better, and later I went to art school. You know, it was just a continuous sort of trajectory for me to finally end up you know, in a profession where I was doing art.
Did you ever have to like study a master's in anything, or you said you went to school, like did you take a degree?
Yeah, I went to an art school in Adelaide at one time, North Adelaide. It was called Stanley Street. There was a
Wow.
I don't know if it's still there.
What's it called?
Art school.
Just try me and I'll tell you if it's there.
I think it was called the Stanley School of Art or something like that.
You know what? I wouldn't know if it still exists. It probably doesn't. So actually, we could.
This was like 30 years ago. So I don't know. But anyway. Yeah. So there was like 1.5 years there. It was 1 year full time, and then I did another subject for a few more months, and then back home in Sweden, which I considered home at that time. I don't anymore. But back home to Sweden, 2 years at an art school in Sweden, in Stockholm. And these were not, there was nothing digital at all about them. This was just traditional art, you know, oil painting, silk screen printing, drawing, etching even we did, you know, we did everything, you know, gouache, acrylic, photography, you know, all that stuff, design, graphic design, typography, you know. And then I got a job as an illustrator after that, with an agency that just had illustrators. I don't think you can do this anymore. This was like an artifact of the time.
Was that
where
in Adelaide? Was that in Adelaide?
No, this was in Stockholm.
Okay, yeah.
So people would come from all over Scandinavia and Northern Europe to this agency and say, okay, we need to have this for this poster, this ad campaign that we're running. Nowadays, you don't do that anymore. You don't go to illustrators. You just get a cheap photo. Yeah, you get a photography. Or I mean, yeah, it's nothing but freelancers basically anyway. So and there's much less use of actual illustration in advertising nowadays. But back then,
Thank God for that,
there was more.
Thank God for that, though, in a way.
Yeah, it's different times. Yeah, and that was the beginning of my
now, that
trip.
school that you talked about actually does still exist. It got bought out. It's now known as the Adelaide, where I'm from, College of the Arts, AC Art.
Oh.
Believe it or not, one of the guys on my Patreon who is I'm mentoring at the moment at the $35 tier, he actually is attending that school. It's a TAFE school, and it's still an art school. So it would have been a private school, and it got bought out by the TAFE, which is like the colleges of Australian schools and that. So it's not university. Yeah, it's the school before you go to university kind of thing. It's a TAFE.
I remember we had a short, a very small man. He was very short and Asian. I'm not sure if he was Chinese or Malaysian or whatever, but he had an accent, and he was the oil painting teacher, and he was pretty damn good at oil painting. But he had a way of, with his long stick, he would point at something and say, "Kitschy, it's crappy. This is crappy." And it was a cool way of giving people feedback.
Yeah.
He didn't take any prisoners. He just said what he thought about it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I learned a lot. Yeah, it was cool. Yeah.
Right. I guess. Yeah. I guess I value a lot of that traditional background that you have. Do you think that's really significantly helped you with where you're at with digital?
I think so. But mostly for the mostly it's just to practice. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a Wacom or a pencil on a paper. You just got to practice. You got to have a schedule. You don't have to do it every day, but I think every day is the best method of scheduling it. Because otherwise, how are you going to schedule it? It's like bodybuilding. You can't do all of your bodybuilding in one day of the week. You have to spread it out.
Exactly.
You have to spread it out. So an hour a day, or half an hour a day, or even if you want to psychologically trick yourself into starting the practice period, you just say 5 minutes. I'm just going to do 5 minutes, and then you start, and then hopefully, if you have any kind of wish to, if you get into the zone, you'll do more than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Just sort of accidental,
Right.
like oops, I did 15 minutes. Oops, I did 20 minutes. Like that.
I started out as a fine artist, and I did a Bachelor of Visual Arts when I went into university, and I found that like for me, fine art was great, and I learned about drawing and painting. And I started out, actually, I was taught I did these short courses by a lady called Marjorie Han, who actually was the first illustrator in Australia to do the Alice in Wonderland books, and hence why I've got a lot of Alice in Wonderland books, because I was mentored by her. And she taught me oil pastels and watercolor and all that sort of stuff. And so I think as a digital artist, digital is great, but traditional is what gave me my foundations for me back in 1995, when I first started really taking art seriously in high school. And for me, it really is valuable. But what happened with me is I really got into painting with oils, acrylic. I've even done egg whites. I painted the old egg tempera style. I studied that in my fine art school. But what I found with traditional medium is the messiness of it, the fact that everything you get paint all over your body. I was a bit messy, but I found that also I like motivation with traditional after a while, and so digital helped me to keep motivated. It's not because there's shortcuts, it's not because it's easier. I think digital can take ages. Like you could sit there, and like the thing with digital versus traditional, I can zoom in on this rock, and I've zoomed in 100 times. You're not going to get that level of zooming with a oil painting or an acrylic. You need a magnifying glass to do that. Whereas with digital, you've got that. You could sit there and it could take you ages to paint this. But what digital painting did is it kind of motivated me to get back into my traditional. When I lost motivation to do acrylic painting and do oils, digital revived my love of painting and painting everything, whether it's from scratch or using some photos to help you along the way. So I think it's really important to learn all the tools, and I've been told that by people, really, really famous artists and really, really artists that have been doing this for years. It's great to learn everything, keep a sketchbook, draw, and you can learn your foundations digitally. You can learn how to do studies digitally and get good at art with a Wacom tablet. But it's just what works better for you. What makes you an efficient artist? If you feel that's going to make you more efficient doing acrylics and oils, go and do that. You know what I mean? But as soon as you see, you get off that bandwagon. You're not producing work, or you're not getting there, or you're not motivated to do the work. Then go switch to a different tool until that tool you get sick of that. Then go back to traditional media. And that's my experience of art,
Right. Yeah. And I can definitely see the result of that. I guess that's been a concern for myself, is sometimes I feel like because I've had a lack of some of the traditional foundation, it's hard addressing kind of an unlimited creativity in the sense that, because I haven't been tied to paints and getting to see how they work, oil paints and, see how they work out, or, pastels, or, whatever it is, even pencil, or, just a traditional foundation, because I don't necessarily have that to start from, sometimes it can kind of be a bit, disconcerting going into digital in the sense that, you apply a lot of strategies that kind of work off those sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think, Stephen?
You can certainly try some other traditional media, but that can be a little expensive and daunting too when you don't have anybody to sort of help you out. And there's a lot of stuff that you don't use in digital that you do use, like you wouldn't use a turpentine wash, and you wouldn't be able to use the gravity of the wash sort of running down your painting. So there's a lot of stuff that wouldn't be useful to doing something in digital. If you tried traditional first to learn how to do digital, that you'd use some of it, and other stuff you wouldn't use at all. So I don't know, to give advice to a young guy who's starting out in this age. I'm not sure. Maybe it's difficult for me to imagine your situation, because mine was quite different.
Right.
But maybe it would be simpler to just jump straight for the digital media, and maybe save the traditional for later if later you find that is not fulfilling.
With my painting, because I get this asked a lot. A lot of people, they want to know,
Yeah.
they want to learn how to paint. I'm going to do a recording of, eventually I will do a traditional recording of the drawing, just a traditional drawing of something, whether it's a perspective lesson or whatever, or a study of an image, a black and white image. And what I'm going to do is then show people how to do a study in black and white, in Photoshop, how to do a study of something. And what I would say is, even if you want to be an artist, even if you can still learn the foundations by doing studies digitally, and I'm actually going to record my process and have a tutorial 1 month between January and March when I've got a bit more time. I'm actually going to come up with a tutorial on how to do studies, because studies are really important. Whether you're doing with paintbrushes and pencils and pens, or whether you're doing it with a computer, it's still a tool. But the studies will help you to understand how does a cloud work. If you study clouds, if you do 10 studies of clouds, your brain's going to know how a cloud works. Do you know what I mean? So all I would say is studies are really important. Whether you're using a pencil, whether you're using a Wacom tablet, it doesn't matter. So I would say for you, if you have got a Wacom tablet, I would start digitally. Do some studies so that maybe do studies of clouds, do studies of the things that you're weak at, or anatomy studies, and sometimes people don't even know how to do that, so it's really, I'm actually going to make a whole bunch of videos on how to do studies, because I think it's important,
sounds like a good idea,
So, and then if you find that you're still not learning digitally, then maybe you need to change it up and do it with oils or acrylics, and do a study with acrylics and oils to really learn how an image works, But I think it's something that's coming across with a lot of new talent and a lot of young people now that want to, or even anyone that wants to get into art. They don't know how to do it, and I think what I want to do is do that to help people out. So I'll probably have some bonus videos at some point in the new year. In the new year, definitely January, February, March. So I'll record just a study and have a voiceover and whatever, and who knows, I might do it in real time as well, which would help people a lot, I think. So, but as you can see here, because I know how to paint a cloud, I'm painting in the clouds. I'm actually, because I've studied clouds for so many years, I actually got a good idea of how clouds work, how lighting affects them, and I'm, using the right brush, a soft brush, to paint my clouds, and create that focal point, So, but so study. I think it's Sorry.
Right. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think it's just that's it's part of foundation is doing studies and learning about lighting, learning about perspective anatomy, all that sort of stuff is foundation. I think your foundations can be taught digitally or they can be taught with traditional. It doesn't really matter. It just depends on the artist, what makes them motivated. I'm teaching a guy, like I said, I'm mentoring a student of mine, and he's actually going to that college that you went to, Steve, but he's doing all fine art, but he's learning from me how to paint digitally. He's using all my tutorials because I cover the foundations. He learns how an image is made up. When I release this video, I'm going to cover the theory of why this image works, why my lights are with my lights, why the darks are with the darks, why I've increased contrast here, why I've done this, and the design theory. There's stuff like this perspective grid that I've got in here. This is all pretty much fitting on the grid, really well. And I cover the design, which is a foundation, a design foundation for painting. These things you still need to know. So it's not so much technique. You may not use the digital technique, but you will still learn the foundations of art. So you learn the foundations of designing an image that looks appealing, or it's a new concept design of Cthulhu or whatever it is. Yeah.
Would you ever suggest any online classes or schools that would be able to motivate that process during it, or I don't know if you know much about that.
I've obviously I'd say subscribe to as many Patreons or whatever it is, people that teach as much as possible. But probably the good one that got me started was the Nomen Workshop. They were really good, because they have a lot of DVDs that you can download. They are a little bit expensive, but they are worth getting, some of their DVDs on foundations and stuff.
Right.
There are online schools around the place. It's just a matter of finding the places. Concept Design Workshop, you know of that one in Adelaide in Australia. They're pretty good. The thing is there's a whole bunch of places. But obviously, I would do some research into what it is that what are you saying that you want? Do you want something that's more, it's going to motivate you, or a mentorship? What is it exactly that you're looking for? So.
Yeah. I don't exactly know what I'm looking for yet. Yeah. Probably, if anything, it's just building a sense of foundation within being able to, eventually I want to be able to just conceptualize everything, to be able to pull very original concepts. I guess that's the dream of any artist, but, it's kind of building, what I need to do in terms of building that up to the point that, I'm working on, building outlines together, how to conceptualize things and work that together to the point of bringing that to the palette and start layering everything down.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I would say is you could go. I'm actually starting to put together. Like I said, I actually am mentoring people at the $35 tier. I'm not here to try and sell more things, but I do actually offer mentorships and I do tutoring and stuff like that. And I kind of set up a program for a lot of people based on their level of what they want to do, and I do that with Patreon as well. So depending on what you want, we can work it out, and give us a message and we can talk about it later. But I think the thing is you have to kind of customize your education to what you want. So I've got a mentor in the US who's helped me out. I've studied at Nomen Workshop. I've studied with the Concept Design Workshop of Australia. I've had 3 things that have influenced me, and I think it's really important to have those relationships where you kind of have people that are vested in your interests, and that's what I want to do with the Patreon, is obviously have more people. I'm doing DVDs every month, and and I'm going to make the DVDs more, I suppose, practical as much as possible. That's why a lot of my recordings I'm talking about theory and why I do things, because I want to pass on as much knowledge as I can. We can talk about it later because I don't want to take up Stephen's time. But yeah, definitely, I would say get your education from a few different sources to make you a better artist. That's basically is the best way I think of doing it in this modern day. Digitally, like this, the power of the internet is amazing.
Yeah. I would ask, what are you most? What gives you the biggest thrill to draw? Basically, what do you like to draw? People or characters? Okay, well then you should definitely just try to draw a character or a part of a character, even a face, even an eyeball, just a little bit every day. Just Google a picture, say, oh wow, that's a cool piece of graphics right there. I want to see if I can do that, and then just draw that, and then the next day something else, or the next day do the same thing again because you weren't happy with the first one, whatever, But just keep it fun, because you gotta have to plan to do this for a year or at least 6 months before you will be able to see significant change, because this is not like learning a piece of software where there some people who have asked me for advice, they think that, okay, I got to focus on learning Max, I got to focus on learning ZBrush because they're so difficult to learn. No, they're not. They're not difficult at all. You can learn how to use Max in a week, a month, whatever. Some people pick it up in a few hours. Some people pick it up in 2 months, but whatever. Drawing is more like you got to think longer term. Drawing and painting, that you got to think a little longer term. So just plan for it to take a while and do a little bit every day.
I suppose exactly right. Tack it in studies, and when I say study, I don't want to make it sound boring. Like when I was doing studies, I picked like my most favorite movies. I got film. I actually got the screen captures of the movies, and I did studies in black and white of say Vin Diesel in pitch black or a scene from The Hobbit, and I try and study that. Why does that design work? I try and paint that. First I give myself a whole day to do it, and then I'll be like, okay, let's do another study. Let's see if I can do a study in 3 hours. Let's see if I can do it in 2 hours. Let's see if I can do what can I get down in half an hour. And but picking things that you really want to do, like if it's a character, stick to characters, build up that portfolio. But I am, like I said, making my DVDs focus on that, and I'm actually offering mentorship and helping people out on their path and setting up like a game plan. Because actually, I'm already doing that with Matthew, one of my students, and another girl called Eleanor. So I'm actually doing a game plan based on your level. And you come to me and you say, hey, I want to get better at characters. How do I do that? And it is challenging. Like, how do you do that? I get that, but you got to eat the cake. You don't eat the cake all at once. You know what I mean? Like, and like you might not like cake with too much sugar in it. You might like a cake that's got chocolate. It has chocolate versus strawberries. So I tailor the cake to be
chocolate.
I tailor the cake to what people need as artists. And so if you want to learn strawberry cakes, I'm going to teach you how to eat a strawberry cake and take it in bits and pieces so that eventually it doesn't, you don't become bitter, or you don't die of diabetes because you've had too much cake, So it's like it's it's a gradual process, like Stephen says. You're not going to learn everything straight away, and you do need a game plan. There are universities and TAFE colleges are great. They're good to start art, and some of these courses online are great. But sometimes having a mentor that kind of, you can just show their work, and they can do a paint over, or they can critique or give feedback. I wouldn't, like we've established already in the conversation with Stephen, critique is probably a very harsh word, but giving feedback to an artist and telling them how they could, approach their work differently or improve an area, that's what I do. And I think, I think that's the best way to learn, really. Is taking a kind of a unique approach. But I think the courses are great that are out there. There's a lot of things. but I think what you're really asking for is kind of like a mentor in a way, or private tuition, which is what I do. So we can talk about it later. So all good. But anyway, Steve, how are you going?
Yeah.
Do you need to go, or do you need to run, or?
Yeah, I think we're coming to the close of the time here. So yeah, if you have any more questions, but even if you think about something later, you can always email me or I'm on Facebook if you want to message.
Cool.
He's got some really cool work.
Yeah.
You're pretty.
Thanks. So do you.
Yeah.
I've been stalking him for a while now, so.
Well, I just wanted to say again, just I guess as an amateur getting into the process, it's really inspiring and encouraging just hearing both of you guys be able to offer input and everything, and really keen. Makes me excited to persevere through this process. So thanks very much.
No problem.
Cool.
I think it's just pretty cool as well, just like from a simple meeting at Supernova, how now I can be talking to two artists online, just from something so random becomes, something that works toward life goals and things like that. So
yeah, technology is amazing.
It is.
Yeah.
Technology is amazing, and I think, it's just, I think, and also stresses as an artist, it's good to kind of get out there, whether it's social media and do stuff. It just shows the power of how positive social media can be and all that, and going to conventions. So I actually hope Stephen does well. Stephen's going to a con in, where is it, Singapore, did you say?
Yeah, Singapore, yeah.
So,
sweet.
I mean,
It'll be fun.
I hope it goes well, and I hope you have fun there, and, I hope you sell heaps of prints, man. So.
It's okay. Yeah, I hope so too. But I don't mind. I'll just go. I'll just have fun.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
It's about the fun.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to still be talking, so you're welcome to hang around still. And I'm not sure if there's anybody else there. I'm just having a look now.
I'm here.
Yeah, cool. Is that your drawing there? No, whose is that?
Yeah, I'm just doodling.
Cool. All right, Steve. So yeah, if you want to go, or I don't think there's any more questions. I think if there is any more questions people want to ask them, we can always I can relay them to you or whatever, or we can figure it.
Yeah, relay them later. Yeah, that'll be excellent. Yeah. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for doing this.
Nice.
Like, honestly, it's
nice.
Awesome. And I'll make the video available to my patrons, that everyone will be able to have it by the. You all will have it, and I'll give it to Stephen's patrons as well. So you guys, I'll give you all a copy of the tutorial or this recording, and I've probably eventually we may put it on YouTube so that people know about what we're doing and stuff, and the cool stuff that's happening. So
yeah.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Right, man. Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks. Talk to you later.
Chat later, brother.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye.
All right. Well, I gotta head out as well. So thanks, Anthony. I'm sorry.
So good. I've got to stop recording. So, but you'll see this you'll see the process. I'll be uploading this on Patreon very soon. So for everyone to have a look at. So yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks so much.
Okay, and just send me a message about those things, about the mentoring or anything. You can send me a message on Patreon or on Facebook or wherever, on email, and I can maybe give you some tips and give you some maybe set up a program or whatever, so to help you out. So yeah.
Right. Cool. Will do.
No worries, mate. Take care. Thank you.
And good luck on finishing the drawing.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Cheers.
All right.
See ya.